Eyes to the box, we got ourselves another patch. This patch is fairly focused and is comprised of a batch of weapon balance tweaks and general bug fixes. The bug fixes are fairly regular and address bugs introduced mainly with the new weapons. So let's go check out those highlights. First up, blaze swords are no longer blocking ranged attacks without the appropriate deflector blessing attached, which is a bit of a shame. I feel like this could be a really fun base kit. A deflector could become a blessing that increases blocking efficiency against range attacks instead. I never used this bug previously, so I can't miss what I didn't have, but the Space Riot Shield is cool enough to still lament upon. They're also having their movement speed decreased back to the intended amount. Hopefully this tweak isn't too harsh of a change, since mobility for these would be surely missed. Exorcist is also being fixed so that it only applies on weak spot hits as designed, which personally I'm completely fine with since it's a good reward for optimum sword fighting. Fortunately, it's not all downhill for blaze swords, as they are now appropriately rocking the warp absorption feat. They're also benefiting from a more global improvement to our special weapons, which include chain swords, thunder hammers, force swords, and chain axes as well. These weapons will now have their special stop on proper priority foes, no matter the cleave they have. While ignoring your cleave sounds nerfy, the burst damage that is dumped after the initial cleave strike is what makes this a solid change. Flamers and Pergata stabs also received a bug fix, as their crits were not being applied properly in terms of damage and burn stacks applied. Will be a nice buff for the Pergatas, but the Flamer has a lot more to worry about once we get to the weapon balance section. Shotguns have also received some slight bug fixes as well, fixing some of the awkward timings associated with their special shells. And the Acropines slug can now bust through thin walls as intended. Combine this with the Vet's counterfire, and covering shooters are going to be having a very bad time. And to round off the bug fixes, covering fire should be activated much more consistently. And out of bug fixes and into rebalancing, and this one is much more involved. Great condolences to our Flamer friends this patch, as their Flamer has taken some mighty nerfs this patch cycle. First off, your Flamer may feel a bit lighter these days, with your oil can holding 10 less drops and your reserves tank taking a similar fate. And damage modifiers across the board have been drastically reduced as well. These tweaks were made also with the Zealot's charge functioning as an armor penetrator in mind, and as such, we have lost a significant chunk of our flak damage modifier. The braced firing mode nearly halves its flak modifier, with similar fates awarded to Carapace, and its impact being reduced against flak, Carapace, and Maniac as well. Burst fire mode has also been reworked to normalize its impact during combat, making it harder to stun foes farther away, and also reduce the stun effect applied on initial contact. These nerfs are likely to chafe a lot of Zealots that have come to rely upon the Flamer's previously outstanding performance. Fatshark did attach a dev note to hopefully explain a bit better why this is being applied, and I do generally agree with their sentiment. Many will counter that it's a co-op shooter. Nerfs like this just don't serve anyone. But that's not entirely true, is it? While we aren't fighting each other, an overperforming weapon can cause your other teammates to feel like they're stuck in the dugout and minimize their contributions to the squad. And simply buffing every weapon to become godslaying would lead to damnation difficulty feeling like malice. Remember that normalizing performances, especially for weapons with, admit it, incredibly low skill ceilings, is important to make the game engaging and capable of surviving long term. If you are looking for a power fantasy, and I totally understand wanting to blow off some steam, lower difficulties will serve you just as well as they always have been, regardless of the nerfs. And with that, let's move over to our Vet's power swords. The main nerf here is once again reducing the special attack swings per activation from 2 to only 1. And the Power Cycler blessing now also only increases the new base to 3 swings per activation. This nerf to me feels very awkward. I feel like the better nerf would have been to decrease the damage output rather than decreasing the efficiency of the activation. I suppose the intended consequence is that veterans don't rely now as much on the special attacks to be their primary outlet of melee damage, but I definitely feel like this is overtuned, and without the Power Cycler blessing, you'll find most veterans will just opt for a brutal momentum axe instead, which is only going to end up decreasing the build diversity even more. Moving into some better news though, the Thamer family has been granted lower stun times after using their special and higher damage modifiers against weak spot hits for their light attacks. This is very nice, especially for the Crucis Thamer, as its light attacks are perfect for singling out a priority foe in tight combat quarters. Shotguns and Ripper Guns are also going to be having their Fire Frenzy blessing buffed across all tiers, but it was also nerfed as an exploit was removed. It was discovered that the tier 3 variant was apparently bugged and could stack to a whopping 400% extra damage. I imagine anything getting hit with this would turn most enemies into a fine pink mist. As some extra tweaks that they provided at the end, medpacks are now also lasting much longer at a 5-minute duration. Burning now also does half damage across all sources to flak, and now the Surgical Blessing will be gaining stacks much faster. And that's it for this video. If you liked the video, give it a like. If I missed anything, leave a comment, and have a wonderful day. See ya.